for 1.5 degrees, that's the goal. We have to work for that direction. And also there are many obstacles and for self-interest and also, for debate. Why? Simply because we do not have a solution. So long we have a solution, and then we would be able to pursue 1.5 degrees. And if we look at the process of climate negotiation, and then we can be very much sure that the progress has been achieved, has been made substantially. UNFCCC, the Framework Convention, was agreed in 1992. At that time, no target at all, no reduction. At that time, we used the term mitigation, right? We did not have any confidence, but we know the direction. We needed to mitigate. It was only, in 1997, we identified in Kyoto Protocol the greenhouse gases, 6 greenhouse gases. So in 1992, we didn't identify greenhouse gases. And in year 2003, we started to use the term low carbon economy. So we didn't say anything, zero carbon. It was, in Copenhagen, 2009, we got the goal 2 degrees. And huge progress further in year 2015, the Paris Agreement, we got the goal 1.5 degrees and carbon neutrality. So now we can say that, we have, the goal is inside, but we need to have solutions, we need to have approaches. So our set event is to look at the possibilities, the approaches, and also, the solutions that's economically viable, zero carbon, and also, welfare improving. So this is something, the goal of our set event. I think that with our set event, we can give the world a signal that 1.5 degrees is doable. We have these solutions. As an opening remark, I think that I should stop here, and then I'm going to, and also have multiple functions. The opening remark, and also I'm the chair of this session for myself. And of course for the keynote, speeches. So now I'm going to, present my approach to 1.5 degrees, a very comprehensive solution, zero carbon energy presumerage system as a solution to a carbon neutral world. The term is artificially created presumerage, production, consumption, and storage. This is our logo, ZEPS, Zero Carbon Energy Presumerage System, as a solution to a carbon neutral world. Now, okay, PowerPoint, please. Oh, so it's there, right? Okay, that's good. Back. Oh, yeah. So, earlier we talked about, global warming. Now is global boiling. And according to the European Climate Center, this year is the warmest year over the past 125,000 years, the Antarctic is melting. According to the technical dialogue, by the parties, if we are going to have 1.5 degrees, we have to reduce carbon dioxide emissions in 2030 by 48%, in 2040, 80%, in 2050, 99%. That means 1.5 degrees target would require the elimination of carbon dioxide emissions. This is a huge challenge. Can we do it? Of course we can. What we need is energy service. We do not need carbon dioxide, right? So as simple as that. So long we have energy services, carbon is nothing. Now with energy services, renewable energy, we have two challenges. One is the cost, right? Because why, we didn't have a chance to see zero carbon? The reason was very simple. We did not have an alternative. We had to rely on fossil fuels. And now, as you can see, in 10 years, solar electricity, the price, the cost has reduced by 90%. Wind, 70%. I can tell you, the Chinese companies in Saudi Arabia, solar panel electricity, 1.06 US cents per kilowatt hour. And inside China, for the Gobi Desert, western part of China, less than 2 US cents per kilowatt hour of electricity, right? This is only, a small fraction of coal-fired electricity, less than 1/3, or only a quarter of the coal electricity. Competitive enough, right? And wind, onshore wind, 2.5 US cents, and offshore wind, 4 US cents. As simple as that. So, solar and wind are everywhere, plenty, all the time. Yeah, of course, we have a problem. That's, energy storage. I can come to you this next slide. And here, people talk about money. Money, I see. I can give you one, simple number. Year 2022, China spent 3.03 trillion RMB to buy oil from the Middle East, from Russia, right? Without employment, without growth of the economy, when it's burned, nothing left, right? And then if we have this 3 trillion RMB invested in wind, in solar, in power battery, in electric vehicles, in heat pumps, that's employment, that's growth of the economy, that's energy security. Earlier, Axel told me that it is balanced development, regional balanced development, right? So there's multiple wins. So the mentality, now we talk to you about, power storage. 20 years earlier, how many of you would believe that, electrical vehicles would dominate in the market? 10 years earlier, anybody here would like to buy an electric vehicle. And now In China, so popular, nobody is willing to buy, gasoline vehicles. Why? 15 minutes charge, you can run up to 1,000 kilometers. Per kilometers drive using electric vehicle, you would require only 12 kilowatt hours of electricity. Well, you can make a comparison. 2 US cents per kilowatt hour, that's 20 US cents or 25 US cents. You would drive 100 kilometers distance. Economic, safe, right? Zero emission, zero carbon. So, transport, with mobility, zero carbon mobility, no gasoline, no emission, right? That was what I told you earlier. We need energy service. We do not need carbon, right? Electric vehicles powered by solar and wind, zero. We have the service. So power battery, that is because, the technology achievement, progress, power battery. Because, the power battery is able to drive, does have the capacity to drive electrical vehicles. And of course, you may see now the lithium battery, is not safe because it can be explosive. And now technology has reduced the risk substantially. And you can also see now lithium is a rare metal. It's scarce. It can have a security concern. Yes, it's a problem. But now we see sodium. 5 years earlier, it was not heard. Only in 3 years, the cost for 1 kilowatt hour, storage, that's only 6 US cents, right? And in 2 years, according to current, learning curve and projection, by 2025, 3 US cents would be able to store 1 kilowatt hour of electricity, right? You can see, in China, sodium battery, the projection is by IRENA, International Renewable Energy Agency. So we can see, the progress. So now come to my prosumerage system, right? On top of your roof, you install solar panel, and then all the solar electricity goes to the power battery, right? The power battery, and then you charge your electric vehicle, all the electric appliances, right? It can be independent. It does not have to rely on the power grid, right? And in China, you can, connect to the power grid. And in Africa, in many other developing countries, they do not have the very expensive, capital-intensive power grid. So this independent system, the cost is manageable, much, much cheaper than diesel-powered electricity. A community, a village, individual households, right? Everything. So we have, the prototype prosumerage system in operations already. So these are the cases. I can share you my slides if you like. And, everything can be replaced by, electricity. This is the solution. We have everything, right? So I'm very optimistic that we have a solution. Well, I think that, my time, should be up to 35. Okay, 45. Oh, it's time. We go. Yeah, very punctuate. my presentation. So next, we invite Professor Åsa Pearson. She's the deputy director at a very famous and influential Swedish Stockholm Environmental Institute. So, Åsa, the floor is yours. You want to sit there? That's more comfortable. Good.
Oh, I could.
Okay, of course.
Let me go up there. Thank you very much to Professor Pan and all the colleagues here for inviting me to join this discussion. I had the pleasure of working with Professor Pan in the independent group of scientists appointed by the UN Secretary General to write the Global Sustainable Development Report, which we presented to the SDG Summit earlier this year in September. So I thought I would draw on that report for this discussion. This is going to be more high level, much more of a global view, not going into the specific technological opportunities, but hopefully I think the SDG framework is helpful for us to think about these systemic solutions. How do we capture the potential synergies, the multiple wins that we heard about? So let me get started. So what our report showed was that, and this came, I think, as no surprise after many crises we have been through globally in the last few years with the pandemic and with also many conflicts leading to energy crisis, food security crisis, and now actually recession in some parts of the world. So we have not made the progress we need to make on the SDGs. In fact, we're only on track to achieve about 15% of the SDG targets by 2030. And when we reviewed selected targets and indicators, there are still big data gaps. We found that indeed we are off track on many of the targets, or we're not seeing sufficient progress. The two indicators that are actually going well, you can see some green in that chart there, are interestingly technology oriented. So it's about access to internet and it's about the mobile networks. So I think that's also interesting to reflect on. What is it that makes these technology solutions progress much faster than some of the big social and economic challenges we face, and indeed environmental challenges. We also looked in this report at the future. Where are we heading? We looked at the scenario literature, and basically it's a very clear message that business as usual will not take us to the 2030 targets in the pace we need to see that. Indeed, we can expect to go backwards on some of these targets. But if we introduce a range of very ambitious, I would say, sustainability solutions, then we have a better shot. So against this background, one key message from this report is that transformation is possible and it's also inevitable. But against this big action gap, I think we also need to recognize some of the successes. So we do find that there is actually a high public awareness on the SDGs in many different communities, ranging from civil society to business to local governments, for example. We have some government and institutional mechanisms to start working more systematically with SDGs, indeed looking at these potential synergies when developing policy, but not really at a large scale. We have private sector initiatives, civil society initiatives, etc. But also some sort of common problems. We see that SDGs are still sort of treated on the margin of core government decision making. They are not reflected in government budgeting. There's still a big lack of finance to make the necessary investments, particularly, of course, in developing countries. And also weak accountability. And here I think it's interesting to compare with the climate targets we have in the Paris Agreement. Here we have gathered many people at the COP to try and really measure and sort of collectively find the solutions and the changes needed to take us closer to the targets. But we don't really have those same accountability mechanisms for the SDGs. And so they are not really yet leading to this integrated policy, these systemic solutions that we heard an example of from Professor Pan. I also wanted to share with you some research we did for this report, looking at SDG interactions, so synergies and trade-offs. This has emerged as a big research field, actually. So this is, I think, a benefit of the SDG framework when trying to think about sustainable development at large, that we can actually look much more systematically now at these in a matrix type of analysis. So we did a big literature review, and we find that at the global level, the literature identifies many more synergies, potential synergies, than trade-offs. So that's the green bars there in that chart represent the synergies associated with each of the SDGs. And we see, especially if we invest in some of the social and economic related SDGs like health and education, we can expect many synergies. But we also see a pattern that the red bars, the existence of trade-offs, tend to be still higher associated with the more environment-related SDGs. So here we find, of course, climate action, we find the oceans, we find biodiversity. So we still have not, on a very global level, very aggregate level, we haven't really broken that sort of trade-off between economic development and environmental protection. And of course, we have this SDG framework has been used in a more applied way, also looking at specific issues, including climate mitigation and climate adaptation. So you will, many of you recognize this chart here from the latest IPCC Working Group 3 report, which lists some of the mitigation and adaptation options in different sectors. I apologize, it's difficult to read this slide. And notes, are there synergies or trade-offs with each of these SDGs? Do various mitigation options, for example, lead to more new job opportunities? And also adaptation measures, do they lead to new job opportunities, etc.? Can we enhance energy security, for example? So the positive message here is also that it's mainly blue, and this represents synergies, not so much orange on that chart, which represents the trade-offs. So indeed, the case seems to be very clear that there are many synergies to be captured. And this has also led to a new report. SEI also contributed to this one by UNDESA and UNFCCC to try and more specifically look at the nature of these synergies and trade-offs and how to realize the synergies. I should say also we have a tool that looks at NDCs and try and see how NDCs address different SDGs. And then we see a gradual increase over time, actually, that the more recent NDCs seem to think more about these synergies, but still big potential, especially, I think, for some SDGs are basically not very well addressed by NDCs. So that's the NDC SDG Connections tool. But coming back to the Global Sustainable Development Report, this is the framework that we try to present to policymakers, that we need to think more about transformation and indeed how we can emulate that S-curve of transformation that we have seen for some of the technologies that Professor Pan discussed, also with the solar panels and the uptake of electric vehicles. And we try to discuss in the report also, can we see those S-curves when it comes also to social innovation? In the report, we identify also these 6 entry points to transformation, one of which is energy decarbonization. So the challenge is, of course, when we try to accelerate transformation, how to capture these synergies. And we identify some capacities that we advise government to start building much more. They include things like better foresight and long-term planning, nurturing innovation, de-risking investment in these innovations, governments taking more of a strategic role, not just a regulator, but trying to direct multiple actors and markets. We need to think about comprehensive and sequenced policy mixes. A carbon price alone may not take us all the way. And as I highlighted here, also this sort of systematic tools to think about synergies. And I will go to my final slide, which is I just wanted to mention and show you that there are many tools out there ready, ranging from models to accounting frameworks for trying to assess when we develop our national NDCs and our climate plans, how can we not just identify but also quantify the potential benefits and the synergies on other SDGs. Some of these are developed by my SEI colleagues, and there are many more. So I think that's an important message for policymakers, that we do have these tools. It's more about actually using them. So with that, I thank you very much for the time.
Well, thank you so much. Also, I think that you control the time also very well. Our next speaker is Professor Xue Junjun from the Japanese Nagoya University. He's been in climate policy area for over 20 years. So, Professor Xue, the floor is yours.
So this is the right. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my speech. My speech will start from telling you some factors and also telling you a story. Okay, this is a report issued by United Nations Environmental Protection Agency in this October. According to this report, to reach the 1.5 degree, it is very difficult. Or sometimes we say it is impossible, because we have many kind of analysis to say that if we cannot cut off carbon emissions by 20% by the year 2030, according to the Paris Agreement, we will fail to get the target. Another thing is we have to cut off 42% of CO2 emissions by the year of 2030. Otherwise, we cannot get the 1.5 degree. So we can see that from now, we have tried many years, from 1972 to now. Every year we have conference. I think that we have a conference since the Copenhagen conference to now, more than 30 times already. But every time we come here, we have to say, sorry, the increase of CO2 emissions has not stopped by us. Even we have done a lot of work, we did do our best effort already. So if this target can be reached or not, I will tell a story about Dubai. That is a story I watched when I take the airplane or elevators. It's a story about the old king and his son's story. The old king have a dream to build a modern city on the sand, on desert, on the ocean. But some people say that is impossible. But the old king told his son, impossible is possible. So we continue to start our working to reduce carbon emissions by our great efforts. Of course, we cannot do it immediately. We have to continue to do our works. My lecture is something like a series. I'm from Japan, from Nanyang University. We have many Nobel Prize winners, and also you have LED lights. Maybe that is an invention of our university professor. But also in economics issues, we have a very famous model called the flying geese model that shows the industrial structure change of Japan and overseas industrial transfer in 1960s and 70s. This is a good start to say that some countries can do something faster or catch up other countries in short term. This is figures to show that from the 1960s to 2018, some countries like Japan, like East Asian countries, for tigers, they catch up with USA in just 30 years. So impossible is possible. So something we can use this theory to do our research. This is a model I invented in 2011. It shows that there's a tunnel effect because we have travel and then we have to travel, across mountains. The Kuznets curve is something like mountains. From left side to the right side, we have to take a long time and have a lot of hard work. But if we have a good pathway, we have a good technology, we can pass through from left side to right side very easily. Well, not so easy, but roughly we can have a shortcut. So this is a model I want to say that we can do something impossible. Okay, and just pass this. The route map, what can we do? What are the global south needed? I just summarized something like that. It's a route map of net emissions. So many countries in global southern countries has not this kind of plan yet. And also, important thing is they have no data. They have no data to show how to make the decision. According to some statistics and research, our CO2 emission total in the world has been understated roughly 20 to 30%. That is something the developing countries had not covered. And also we need a green investment and carbon financing. But the good thing is that we heard from the beginning, the Dubai is also making another miracle because just 5 days mobilized $73 billion for the carbon reduction actions already. So this is the biggest achievement since the COP conference. And also we need a leapfrog energy transition and then adaptable technology and transformation and capability building. So this is a very famous equation to show how can we calculate CO2 emissions. This is a model produced by Japanese professor Kaya. We use this model to calculate this. So from this model, we can see there's two important things relating to energy transition. One is energy intensity, another is carbon intensity. So how can we do it? So we can see from these pictures, many countries, especially global south, have a lower efficiency of energy. So the most important thing we have to do is to improve the quality of our growth and also to improve efficiency of energy. This is a timetable for all countries to reach the target by the year of 2100. But the question is that many countries promised to have a carbon neutrality or net zero emissions by the end of the year, this century. For developing countries, how can they do? How can we guarantee them to do? And this is figures to how dangerous for global south to get the target. There's especially countries like China, India, Brazil, and Russia. So we have a long way to go. Okay, and finally, I will show you briefly the so-called flying case model for energy transition. Yeah, this is my model, sheer model. And we have several important factors. One is the so-called low-carbon industrial transformation. We have transformation. The second one is green investment and energy transition. The third one is technological transfer and sharing. And finally, is my idea, system transfer and capability building. So global South countries need that. This is the model I just started yesterday to say that developed countries or global South countries can jump from a fossil oil energy to renewable energy and then to green energy and get the target of zero emissions. So we can help them. They also need help to get the emission zero emissions. That is something we have to think fundamentally from a theory, from a model, but not only data and also something like that. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Professor Xie, and I think that you have made the message very clear. We need to leapfrog, and we can leapfrog from a fossil fuel carbon-intensive economy to a zero-carbon renewable economy. And now our next speaker is Professor Thomas Polk, Director of Global Justice Program at Yale University. And he, by chance, is not able to join us here in person, and he is going to make a video speech. Now, yes, please. Some technical problems. It worked, we tried it, and it doesn't work. Don't worry. He proposed a new solution for financing, ecological impact fund, which is
Greetings
also
from
very
New Haven, and thank you for the opportunity to present to you the Ecological Impact Fund idea. Our ecological crisis urgently requires new green technologies that reduce the need for burning fossil fuels. Such new green technologies must not merely be developed, but must also be rapidly and widely deployed. Inventors deliver thousands of green innovations every year. Their efforts are motivated and financed by 20-year product patents that they are entitled to claim pursuant to the 1995 TRIPS agreement. About 15,000 distinct green patents are granted each year. Such patents encourage investment in innovation by enabling originators to earn monopoly rents on their new technologies or to collect royalties or licensing fees for permitting others to do so. Patents also impede the diffusion of innovations. This headwind is especially harmful in the domain of green technologies, where buyers typically enjoy only a small fraction of the overall benefit from their use. In deciding whether to pay extra for low-emission technologies, buyers are mindful of local benefits, but they may give little thought to the much larger benefits to the whole planet and future generations. In more affluent countries, this headwind against uptake of green technologies is mitigated by substantial environmental regulations, taxes on emissions, and green subsidies, which encourage the choice of green technologies. But such compensatory measures are rare in poorer countries because they would cause substantial cash outflows to northern patentees. The South is not eager to pay monopoly rents to the much richer North, for permission to help avert a global disaster that the North has unleashed. Nor will southern states willingly slow or forgo their own development because the North has emitted too much already. Here's an example of this concerning coal-fired power plants. Matsui Babcock charged manufacturers of steam boilers a $1.5 million licensing fee for each 600 megawatt boiler for its patented ultra supercritical technology. Some operators, especially those in the north, paid the fees, but many in poorer countries kept deploying less efficient subcritical or supercritical technologies that generate up to 30% more emissions for decades. And that is absurd. We have the technology and we are not using it because of these high markups. Now, what can we do to stop this absurdity? We can institute an ecological impact fund. We should give green innovators the option, at least, to agree to the cost-free use of their innovation in exchange for payments from a global ecological impact fund that are based on the measured total ecological impact of their innovation, assessed according to a pre-announced metric. The Ecological Impact Fund is meant to accelerate deployment of green innovations in the Global South. It would invite patentees to register any new green technology with two effects in all countries below a certain annual per capita income. The originator grants permanent royalty-free licenses in the EIF zone for its registered technology, and the EIF rewards each registered technology for 6 years for emissions averted with it in the EIF zone. Such EIF rewards could be financed by states of the global north, including China. These states can afford it. They have greatly contributed to the ecological crisis, and they have made long-standing and so far unfulfilled promises in terms of development assistance, help with mitigation and adaptation, and the Sustainable Development Goals. EIF rewards would be paid through fixed annual disbursements, initially perhaps of $2 to $3 billion annually, with possible subsequent scale-ups. Any new green technology could be registered for participation in 6 consecutive such disbursements, each split among registered innovations according to emissions averted with them in the EIF zone in the preceding year. After 6 reward years, the technology would become available for free generic production and use. The EIF reward rate, because EIF registration is voluntary, would emerge endogenously. When originators find it unattractive, registrations dry up and the reward rate rises as older innovations exit at the end of their reward period. When the reward rate is seen as generous, registrations proliferate and the reward rate declines. These equilibrating forces would keep the reward rate stable and fair between funders and innovators. The EIF would create a new kind of artificial market in which renovations of all kinds can compete in the quest to achieve the most cost-effective emission reductions. Registered technologies would be rewarded based on their performance, of which diffusion is an essential part. Now, while monopoly rewards incite massive efforts to deter, detect, and terminate patent infringements, impact rewards would motivate originators in the opposite direction. They would promote the rapid, widespread, and effective deployment of their technology for optimal impact. So even if the sales price gives innovators nothing more than the cost, they would still be strongly motivated to support deployments because they earn money on the impact reward payments. So these originators would not merely charge nothing for the use of the innovation, but would even encourage its deployment by providing technical assistance and even by subsidizing its use. Now, why do we propose this idea only in the poorer countries? The reason is that there's little demand in the poorer countries for green technologies at high monopoly prices. Consequently, limiting the EIF to these countries ensures that there is low opportunity cost for EIF registration and hence a low EIF reward rate and therefore high cost effectiveness of the EIF. For little money put into the EIF, we get a great deal of ecological benefit. Especially for technologies geared to poor populations and tropical regions, Impact Fund would open whole new areas of technology, would accelerate the overall pace of innovation, and would expand capacities in the Global South to develop, manufacture, distribute, deploy, operate, and maintain relevant technologies. Optionality for innovators and funders facilitates establishing the EIF in a gradual way. And here it helps that all stakeholders really have reason to support it. People in the EIF zone would like the fact that they can buy green technologies at lower prices, that they would enjoy a cleaner environment and slow down climate change. Potential buyers would like the fact that they get access to new and cheaper ways to grow green. Ecology and social justice movements would of course be pleased with the ecological benefits. Innovators would like it because they would have new opportunity for profit in the EIF zone, and they could always decline these opportunities if they so chose. Intellectual property defenders would like the idea because it would be optional. Nobody is forced to give up their patents. And financing states, finally, would find that they could meet their climate responsibility at relatively low cost. Thank you for your attention.
Well, you can see this is a new approach, a market approach, ecological impact fund, as compared to our politically negotiated losses and damages fund. Well, this is the conclusion of our first session. Now we come to our panel discussion session. Professor Yu Xiang is coming to chair the session. Please, Professor Yu.
Okay, good morning. So the first session is very excellent. So we learned a lot from the first session. And second, we have a panel discussion. And so please, the speakers come to the table. Thank you. Okay, so how to achieve the 1.5 Celsius? I think is a problem. The developing country and developed country work together to achieve that. So in a traditional developed model, maybe the economic growth depends on the fossil fuels, and addressing the climate change is viewed as the loss of the climate and economic growth. So instead of that, in China or other developing countries, we will treat the addressing climate change as a new opportunity for development. So more and more people will overtake with the new green development model that the growth of the economy is so deeply connected to preserve the economics, or preserve the environment, or addressing the climate change. So in this part, we will have and 6 speakers. And I have a reminder, we have very strict limits to use of the room. So please control the speak time, and Professor Pan set a very good example. So take your time in 5 minutes. Okay, first of all, we will invite our first speaker, and that's Mr. Axel Michael Lowery from the research from the representative climate. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm representing University of Zurich and Perspectives Climate Research, and I want to talk about the critical role of international carbon markets in bringing us towards the 1.5 degree targets. We've seen that the clean development mechanism of the Kyoto Protocol was able to mobilize almost 10,000 activities in more than 100 countries, generating more than 2.3 billion emission credits. It has shown if the right incentive is there, then anywhere in the world mitigation can be mobilized extremely quickly. And under the Paris Agreement, now we have Article 6.2 as a bilateral mechanism and Article 6.4 as a mechanism that mirrors the structure and the rules of the CDM. These two mechanisms are still under operationalization and being negotiated here. I think it will be crucial for this COP to be a success to agree on the methodology guidance for Article 6.4. Why is this? Because the methodology guidance for Article 6.4 is crucial to make this mechanism work. And the stringent principles for this mechanism that were agreed at COP26 in Glasgow could mean that this mechanism becomes a benchmark for all international carbon markets. And such benchmark is sorely needed, because we've seen multiple scandals on the international voluntary carbon markets. The price for the credits of international voluntary carbon markets have fallen by more than 90% within the last 12 months. International media, international NGOs have criticized the avoided deforestation credits for being not real, and their investigations have led to really discoveries that actually could shatter the faith in the market. That's why we need Article 6.4 to come to the rescue. And a good Article 6.4 decision here at Dubai could generate a new level of trust, especially if the principles are now interpreted stringently. I have published a research paper proposing the so-called ambition coefficient for baseline setting in the long run for international carbon markets. This is a discount factor that becomes smaller over time, and that means that from the year when the host country should have a net zero target, emission reduction credits can't be issued anymore. That only removal credits could be issued from that time. That would be exactly the right incentive to ensure that international carbon markets play their role commensurate with the ambition we need to achieve 1.5 degrees. I also want to mention the critical role of international carbon markets for the just energy transition partnerships. We are seeing them now in a number of countries: South Africa, Indonesia, Vietnam, Senegal. They bring together billions of dollars, but there is a kind of end of the honeymoon period currently. Ministries of Environment are ambitious, ministries of Energy are more skeptical. There is a lot of fear that the phase out of coal power could lead to greater instability. Great strengthening solutions are very expensive, and therefore, we are getting currently a stalling of these initiatives. I think that international carbon markets could recatalyze the just energy transition partnerships. If we find clever combinations of coal power plant phase out, renewable electricity generation plants, and grid strengthening financing under a policy crediting mechanism under Article 6.4, I think this could bring the just energy transition paradigm again to fruition, and that could then be the real lighthouse to show that Article 6 and international carbon markets can actually contribute to the ambition we need to reach 1.5 degrees. Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I have to rush off to a negotiation meeting right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so carbon trading mechanism is very effective tool to reduce the carbon emissions. So we also have some expertise for China in this session to talk about the carbon trading schemes in China. So next, we will invite our second speaker is Mr. Liu Chang, and the direct and climate and deputy from the chief representative of the Children's Investment Fund Foundation. So please.
Thank you, Xiang. Yeah, actually, I'm the Deputy Chief representing China of SAFE, Children Investment Fund Foundation. So my foundation, I think SAFE is one of the biggest, largest philanthropy foundation working on climate. We focus on the climate issue in China. So for us, it's very important to support a lot of sustainable development and low carbon transition issues for China, but also not limited in China, but also how to enhance China cooperation with other developing countries, with other regions. So back to today's topic, I think that 1.5 degree definitely the most important target we want to achieve. But I think that beyond besides the ambition, we have to have actions. So I just want to share 3 points that's very important from my mind is how to integrate climate with other efforts together and how to have more actions on the ground. So first of all, I think that we need to integrate climate with the market. Not only the carbon market, but I think more important, integrate climate with corporate action. We need some business model. We need to find some doable, profitable, and other kind of cases which can succeed in next 5 to 10 years, then showcase other people how we can promote low carbon transition, but at the same time can bring more economy benefits, can bring more profitable for business, but also can bring more environmental benefit for all of the people. So I think this kind of business model, like Professor Jiahua mentioned before, we are moving forward quite fastly in China. Some like, for example, like a decentralized renewable plus microgrid plus energy storage. So I think that is quite big potential areas we can work together in the future. And second, I think we should integrate climate with finance. Financial need is very important, especially for many developing countries. So I think currently, green finance, transition finance move very fast, but also we still have a lot of work to do, like disclosure, like risk assessment, but also like how to use more innovative financial approach to support different regions, especially some developing regions. So I think that, but the financial sector would be much more active, I think, compared with before, and they can support a lot of support for climate action. So I think that we need to break those two areas, two circles, and build some synergy among them. And finally, I think we need also integrate climate with full society. I mean, some people mentioned, for example, some developing countries, they have some really different needs compared with China, compared with other developed countries. So we need to really care about what kind of actions we can use to satisfy their demands, but also at the same time, how to promote just transition. I think that is a very key topic, especially for some like fossil fuel dependent regions. We need to find solution for them. We need to support them to get through this very difficult and challenging situation, but also achieve the successful economic growth. So I want to share these 3 points. I think more important is how to enhance our cooperation from the different aspects, especially like international cooperation. For example, like China with other developing countries, how to enhance the global South cooperation. So our foundation would also like to provide very strong support in those areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of brilliant ideas about how to achieve the 1.5 degrees and from the developing countries. So from the carbon trading markets, from the different tools, and explore some models for some enterprises. Okay, so next one we will have some other perspective or points from the developing countries. We will invite Dr. Dimline from the Sustainable Solution for Africa, some ideas about the climate change project analysis perspectives. So please.
Thank you for giving me the floor. I would like to begin by extending my sincere gratitude to Sustainable Development Research Center and to the Chinese Academy of Social Science for the opportunities to be part of this distinguished panel. It is truly an honor to share the stage with such estimated panelists. I would therefore like to reiterate my utmost consideration to them. Now, to come back to the question of solution of Africa, I will begin by saying that climate change is one of the world's concern, probably requiring the most significant collective action to cap global warming at below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The African country, therefore, is faced with a double challenge. It is no longer just about the development of the country, but of the developing the country in compliance with the Sustainable Development Goal and the commitments set out by the Paris Agreement on the other hand. Now, the question from this situation is how the continent, with economies depending on climate-sensitive sectors, can effectively contribute to capping global warming below 1.5 while developing. Let me turn to the agriculture sector to illustrate the situation. According to the IPCC report, climate change has reduced the total agricultural productivity growth in Africa by 34% since 1961, more than any other region in the world. While over the time, the African countries have become aware of the need to design and implement policies aimed at mechanizing the agriculture or intensifying the industrialization. Today, these policies can increase the carbon print of the continent. It will therefore be absurd for the continent to go in this sense. So, three scenarios present to the continent. The first, so the continent is facing three scenarios. The first, he will keep developing without achieving its NDC's goal, what is not efficiency. The second, it will focus on achieving the NDCs and putting apart the development. And the third, which assumes that the continent managed to reconcile the first two assumptions. For this to be possible, I believe the continent will have to rely on green technology solution. One example is the use of solar panels in agriculture. While we achieve the technological independence that will enable us to develop solutions that better meet our needs, Africa will have to promote in-depth cooperation with technological advanced countries to make the transition to a low carbon economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think in Africa, thanks, and Dodger share some perspective from the projection of the carbon emissions from different scenarios. And we all believe that in Africa, we have huge potential for renewable energy development. Okay, so next we will invite the Professor Wang Ren from the Hubei University to share some ideas with us.
Yeah, thank you. I have also 3 points here. unlike COP28 here in Dubai. It is about bringing together governments, business, communities, and all sectors of society to discuss and communicate. As Mr. Pan just said, China's progress towards meeting its carbon peaking targets is exciting and remarkable. However, it also should be recognized that these achievements have in fact been made through cooperations and coordinate between the governments, commercial enterprises, and all social groups, and have not come about by themselves. So my first point is so in the future, when China realized its set goals, I mean the 1.5, not 1 point, it's the carbon peaking and the carbon neutral goals, it will have to pay more or much attention to the balance of power and interest of different groups, including also funding ERF, just mentioned, to balance the people from poor or from rich sectors. That is my first point. My second point comes to education. I come from a university, and I have attended two COP conferences. One is in Dabo, South Africa, several years ago, and also this meeting. I personally feel that China, as a country with a very high level of total and per capita emissions, is far behind the United States, European, EU, and many Asian countries and regions in supporting, encouraging, and mobilizing the primary and secondary school students, as well as also university students, to participate in such movements like using own actions to promote the actions of governments and enterprises. So I think the mobilization and the importance of young people for future internship of on the 1 degree goal should not be underestimated. Finally, as my own research, I want to briefly explain that it may be necessary to add the constraints and the assessment of achieving carbon neutrality to China's urbanization strategies and the planning. It's also one part of SDGs strategies. China's city cluster development is a large-scale and long-term development plan. Its linkage with China's Sustainable Development Plan and also carbon neutrality are not identical. It's also part of China's new type urbanization process and a high-quality plan. The developing several main regions help the countries to become more connected domestically and internationally. Instead of accessing the carbon intensity or carbon emissions of 31 provinces, China's future goal of achieving carbon neutrality could be impose carbon constraints and such goals on its total 19 urban agglomerations, I mean city clusters. On one side, there are 31 provinces in China, and on this side, there are 19 urban classes, city sisters. They are less numerous, smaller in geography territories, and also more representative. Our study suggests that China bottom-up monitoring of carbon accounting could be compressed with its 19 urban city clusters. Due to time constraints, I'm not going to elaborate on this point here. Thank you very much for your attention, and much appreciated.
Okay, thanks for sharing. So I can agree more that the students or some young teenagers, they will play an important role in the future to achieving the some targets like the carbon neutrality. Because in the 2016, we all old. So we need the young people to come here to support us to achieve this target. And next, we will invite another professor from Chinese University. It's the Professor Sun Yongping, from the Huazhong University of Science and Technology in China. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Yu Xiang. I will share Wuhan cases in integrating economic growth and sustainable energy and climate action. I know the temperature control is the result of trading off benefit and cost. Other than 1.5 degree Celsius growth, and obviously the cost will increase. We needed to work out a solution to trade climate action as economic growth itself. So very important. So Wuhan provide excellent example. In 2016, Wuhan was shut down because of the water launching. So water launching is the biggest challenge in Wuhan. But in 2017, Wuhan invested about 16 billion yuan to construct a sponge city in order to with urban water launching. In the process, Wuhan's ecological environment has been significantly improved. As a result, the premium for land sold by the local government has been increased because the consumer has a higher willingness to pay for the good ecological environment. So the housing price is increasing. Although the sponge cities projects were funded by the government or financing platforms, the government was able to repay the loans through the higher land premiums. Moreover, the real estate investment itself can also contribute to the tax and employment, which promote local sustainable development. What's more important, this project can ensure the inclusiveness because local residents can enjoy a good ecological environment. Therefore, Wuhan case, the climate action bring together local governments, banks, consumer, and local residents, which will increase key topics such as financing, sustainable development, and inclusiveness, climate action together. So welcome to Wuhan, visit the sponsor museum. Welcome. So
Thank you. Yeah, we still have another 5 minutes for the next speaker. So last we will invite, sorry, yeah, we changed the schedule, yeah. We didn't put his name in the schedule? Oh, okay, yeah. We will invite the Chen Zhiqiang, the President of China Carbon Emission Registration and Clearing Co-Companies. Okay, so please.
虽然我跟孙老师都是来自武汉，但是我不是来自学术机构，是来自中国碳市场最大的运营机构 中碳灯。那么我们这个机构呢，目前呢主要是按照这个市场化的机制，为全国碳市场提供相关的服务，以此来促进能源企业的相关转型工作。从目前中国的经验来看呢，我们主要是来自3个方面。一个呢是我们通过7个试点，把相关的经验推向全国。第2个方面呢是用市场化的机制，促使控排企业通过碳市场实现能源转型。第3个方面呢就是成熟一个，扩展一个。接下来呢，我们将在2025年把中国覆盖碳排放量70%的8个行业全部纳入全国碳市场。主持人。
你全部说完了，你全部说完了。
这么多，谢谢了。
Okay, I think Mr. Chen gave us a very good example. In China, how to promote the pilot carbon trading schemes in our markets. So the carbon emission registration and clearing coupling is play an important role in carbon trading schemes in China. And I think maybe in the future we have a bunch of experience to share with the audience. So we are lucky we still have a lot of time to begin the Q&A sessions. So if anyone have the questions, so welcome to give some comments or other brilliant ideas to talk about the 1.5 sessions. Yeah. Any questions? Okay, please.
So what is the biggest challenge to get the business in Africa in the face of
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. The biggest challenge is to be able to acquire the technology, I can say. That is the real big challenge for African countries. Thank you.
Okay, so if we don't have further questions, I think maybe Professor Pan will give us some closing remarks of our session.
Professor Pan, I would put forward a question for you, and because our this session is the systematic solution of the 1.5 target from developing country, and you have also give us a very innovative introduction of ZEPs, and I wonder how this kind of solution could be applied in those developing countries. Can you give us a detailed introduction on that?
So you ask a question, pose a question for me. Well, yeah, I would like to take this opportunity to go further illustration of this zero carbon energy procurement system. The idea is very simple. You know, you would require only 8 square meters of your roof, top to install 1 kilowatt capacity. And then each 1 year, you would be able to generate in northern part of China 1,300 kilowatt hours of electricity. So normally a rooftop, you would have at least 80 square meters space, and then you would be able to install 10 kilowatt capacity. And then each year, you would be able to generate 13,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. Per kilowatt hour cost is 3 US cents. So if we use the Chinese most competitive products of solar panels, and then for power storage, lithium is a little bit expensive, and now we have sodium. Sodium, by 2025, the cost would be only 3 or 4 US cents. You would be able to store 1 kilowatt hour electricity. And then, you can get it integrated for your electrical appliances, for your, heat pumps, kitchen, everything, right? And also you can have an electrical vehicle. As I mentioned earlier, 100 kilometers drive, you would require only 12 kilowatt hours. So this system, you can get it integrated, optimized, operational. In China, we have some systems, such systems in operation. And the power grid, it can be connected. You may see, in one area, you may have rainy days for over 1 week. That might be a challenge. Yes, that might be a challenge. But we have wind, small wind turbines. Is also very competitive. And also, in this area, it is rainy, but 100 kilometers away, it can be sunny. And then you do not have to, use the, power transmission. You simply, use the power battery 100 kilometers away to shift it to the rainy area. So it's, we have the solution. In particular, because in China, the power grid is everywhere. But in Africa, in many other developing countries, they do not have such a wide coverage of power grid. And then such an independent system is workable, is viable. In particular, for one village, for a school, and then you can have all the, top of the roof installed solar panels, and all the electricity goes to one big power battery, 2,000 kilowatt hours capacity. And then all the electricity goes to individual households, and all the electric vehicles come here to charge. So this is this can be a cooperative or a collective. And we have applied to China International Aid Agency. They said they would support for such ideas to be materialized in developing countries like Africa. And also I talked to the Europeans and the UK governments and my colleagues, my counterparts. They also see that a trilateral cooperation, China, Europe, Africa, a trilateral cooperation might be feasible. So I think that, when all this, energy poverty would not be a further challenge. For, finance, that's a challenge, but, we have the benefits. So economically, if you make a calculation, that would be no problem at all. So I think that's my simple, further explanation in case, the audience or the panels, you would have further questions. Really, I would like to communicate. And also, in case you would like to know more information, you would like to be kept in touch, and then, we would be happy to get you connected. And we have established a ZEPS, Zero Carbon Energy Preliminary System Consortium in China, currently, which was created very recently, last July. And, you are most welcome to join our consortium to have zero carbon energy production energy system widely applied, deployed to have our 1.5 degrees reachable, and also for our well-being upgraded. That's zero carbon and well-being. So, and of course, energy security. Okay, any further questions? And if you'd like to have any, contact information, we do have it somewhere, and also we have my colleagues here around. And in case you would have a chance to go to China, I can show you around such, system operational, in different parts of China. Thank you. Thank you.
One example. To apply your ideal plan, one professor from Tsinghua, his name is Guan, is traveling around China to help village people to build 1 kilowatt photograph. So you have time.
It's a panel, it's a PV panel. I hope it will take the greater solar PV to the world.
I cannot help you. 1 kilowatt hour per person. That's not enough. We need to have 2 kilowatt capacity or 3.
Okay. If 1 kilowatt for everyone, maybe China will achieve the peaking. And when the world, everyone have a 10 kilowatt hour PV, and I think the world will be carbon free, and carbon neutrality. Yes, thank you.